All right, welcome people. This is Bob Tripathi with Digital Sparx Marketing, and as you know, I like to talk to industry leaders, people who have been there, done that, and still at the forefront of the industry. So pleased to have Brian with us. Brian, welcome.
Oh, you were talking about me.
I am. I am. So Brian is a long-time conversion expert, industry thought leader, and it's always fun to chat to Brian. So Brian, what we'll do is we'll walk a little, ask you questions, and yeah, just share your thoughts and insights with us.
My favorite meetings are walking meetings.
Walking, awesome. Let's do this. So you've been doing conversion, right? So what is conversion optimization? Just like 101 level, you know?
The basic level, conversion optimization, is getting more revenue, more leads, more sales from the work you're already doing on your marketing. So the traffic that you're bringing, them to a better and better experience, so more of them decide to take action and start a conversation with your audience, become a lead, buy your products, whatever it is that you really need.
Yeah.
So that's it in a nutshell.
So how important is it?
It's not important at all. It just makes all of your other marketing more valuable. So if you can get more people to convert, then you can spend less on ads.
Right.
You can spend less on social media outreach. You can spend less on organic. Or you can take that profit and plow it back into those things.
Right.
So you can afford to bid more if you have higher conversion rates on those landing pages. So acquisition cost is the linchpin of all of marketing, really.
Right.
And conversion is ground level, rubber meets the road for that.
Nice. So one thing I hear a lot is when people start with conversion optimization, they start with your paid search landing pages. I'm sure that is one place to go. What would you suggest? Where do people start?
Well, I think you can start there because those paid search landing pages, those clicks are expensive. I mean, it's getting more and more expensive to advertise on Facebook or Google. So that's a great place to start because the payoff is real. 10% increase in conversion rate is the same thing as dialing down your the cost of every click by that same 10%. But there's no reason that you can't be optimizing your organic search. There's no reason you can't be optimizing social traffic that's coming from earned clicks.
Right. So what are some examples? So let's say organic, right? Organic SEO. What are some of the conversion examples that people can, apply to it, when they're starting out?
Organic's really interesting. A landing page, the way we talk about it, is it's got to keep the promise that you made in your post or your email, and then it's got to invite the visitor to make a choice. Yes or no. There should never be any mistake that somebody is asking you to make a choice. So on the organic pages, those are usually content oriented. You promise content, the page already delivers the content, but what we forget on these organic pages is to add calls to action in key places, like at the bottom of the article. Why not add what we call a dripping pan, an offer at the bottom, because someone who's read through that content is probably pretty engaged in the topic, right? Right. So those little things are the places that we start when we're optimizing for organic.
Nice. So a lot of people also ask me, conversion, how does it differ, if it does, between B2C and B2B companies? Like, in shopping cart is an example that everyone knows about, optimizing that, and we can talk about it later. But according to you, how does it differ between B2B and B2C, if it does?
Yeah, well, there's different strategies we use for B2B, and I'm going to kind of stereotype B2B, but typically you have a longer sales cycle because there's more people involved in the decision, and there's more it's more of a technological sale. And so you have lower traffic. You have lower, even if you have high traffic, you generally have slower lead flow. So you have to use a different strategy, a different statistical strategy than an e-commerce site, say, where you're selling to consumers and you have a lot of those transactions. But the thing you shouldn't forget is in both cases, you're selling to human beings. It's just that one human being is worried about how much money they're spending to solve their problem. The other human being is worried about their job, their career, looking good. Is it okay for me to send this page and show this site to my boss? So those are the key differentiators for us.
Now, trust symbols, I know we had an offline chat. How critical are those? Like, people like to have, our site is this, we got 5 stars on Yelp or what have you. How much of a big impression or impact does it make, the trust symbols on a shopping cart?
So we love the strategy of borrowing trust, especially borrowing trust from other well-known brands.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you're trying to draw new people who maybe haven't heard of you, that's a good way to do it. If they have heard of you, then your logo up in the upper right corner, upper left corner, is a great way to just reinforce that you're there. So honestly, we've brought trust symbols, third-party trust symbols into the shopping cart experience, into the checkout experience with good luck.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work. So in places where maybe you haven't thought to reinforce that trust issue, like in the checkout process, those are some places you should consider doing that. Even putting testimonials in the checkout process can sometimes work for you. It's just a matter of the equation of how much trust your customers are coming with when they're buying, and how much trust your brand already carries.
Right, right. Is there any percentage impact have you seen across the board? 8% if you use a testimonial. So testimonial, trust symbols, these are the common elements people put in a B2C page, shopping cart page, but have you seen those percentage increase, or it varies wildly?
Yeah, there's no benchmark, there's no best practices. That's one of the things that we learned the hard way over the years. We've been doing this since 2007. And I started off consulting and giving people all these great ideas and then saying, all right, go have a great time doing that. And then we started A/B testing, and I very quickly got humbled. The beautiful, wonderful ideas that I thought certainly were going to increase conversion rate didn't.
Right.
And so ever since then, we've decided there really are no best practices. Whenever we start with a new client, we try to start with child's mind, like we don't know anything, and work from there. Now we have a playbook.
The Buddha's way, right?
The Buddha's way, yes. We have a playbook that we go to, but every audience is different. It just is.
Just like shopping cart optimization, conversion is so critical. In B2B, I still see some smart marketers putting like 10 questions on an ebook sign-up form.
Mm-hmm.
Why they do that? Why can't they do some progressive customer profiling? And what impact have you seen if one form field you add? What kind of a percentage impact does it have?
Yeah, a lot of times a marketer will say, wow, I'm going to get all this extra information, this qualifying information, because sales is going to love it.
Yeah.
When we get in there, we find out, do we need all these fields?
Yeah.
Because in general, the more fields you add, the lower the conversion rate.
Right.
And we find out sales isn't using it.
Right.
So they didn't need to collect it at all. So if you need it, like for instance, you can put qualifying questions in there that will chase away unqualified customers.
Yeah.
If you need it, or sales is using it, go ahead and put it in there. But otherwise, minimize the number of fields that you have.
Is there any standard 4 fields, 5 fields? Must-haves.
Our friends at Unbounce did a little study of their landing pages and the forms on that. And what they found out that there was a steady drop in conversion rate, I think up to 3 or 4, and then it leveled out to 7, and then above 7, this conversion rate started dropping again.
Yeah.
So over 4 seems to be a hump, and then you can get away with a few more, but if you go above that, then, especially on mobile. Now think about how hard it is to complete a form on mobile, especially since we don't typically do a very good job.
Right.
And that's the fastest growing segment of your audience.
Right. I think one of the things that we can probably walk back is, one of the things we have seen is you can have your first name, last name, email, but when you ask people their phone number, suddenly the drop-off has gone down by 15 to 20%.
Yes.
Is it because it's so personal and people don't want to call? Why that phone number has such a big impact?
That's exactly why. They're like, this is my phone number. The only phone that people have now is their mobile phone.
Yeah.
And we know that when you ask for a mobile phone, you're going to have a significant drop-off. But we call these killer fields. They stop the flow. And there's a number of tools out there that you can use to gauge where people are dropping off on your forms, even if they don't complete them. So there's that. If you ask somebody their social security number, bye-bye to your conversions.
Unless you're applying for a credit card.
Yeah. But there are some nefarious ones. So if you have a drop-down menu, let's say your drop-down menu asks how many employees your company has, good qualifying question. We had a client that was really going after the small business world, and their first cut on the drop-down was 0 to 1,000.
Wow.
So every small business that looked at that got communicated subconsciously, these people don't do business with small businesses, when that was the target they were going for. So you've got to be careful on drop-downs. We're a big fan of let them enter their own question. If you ask a title and their exact title isn't in there, this isn't for me,
Right.
and you'll find your abandonment rate going up.
Yeah, I think data appending can solve a lot of these common problems.
Data appending, you had mentioned progressive data filling, so start the conversation with the bare bones.
Yeah.
And then build that relationship.
time.
It takes a little more sophisticated to do,
Right.
sophisticated work, a little more planning in your campaigns to do that progressive filling out. But there are now services that are collecting that data, appending
Yeah.
that data for you.
Yeah.
There's no reason to really have to get all of that within your first touch.
Can you share your insights into how people should go on a testing format? A/B testing, MVT. What do you suggest people do?
A/B testing and MVT, these are relatively hard.
Yeah.
But this is the best data you can collect.
Right.
Like, this will tell you statistically if you have a better idea and by how much your idea is going to improve things or not improve things if in fact it doesn't work out for you. But I think the first step is to start getting good at satisfying your own curiosity. There are a lot of tools that are easy to use that you can answer some of these questions. Like, say, what combination of headline and image should I put on this landing page? We got 10 headlines. We've got 15 images we could put on there. Take a few of those best ones and put them in front of a panel on a tool like Usability Hub or Helio and see if you can let that audience tell you
Right.
which one communicates, are you credible, which combination communicates what the tool, what the offer is, which one of them communicates why they should take action
Right.
and where they would click to take action, and then start with those. And if once you have a couple of those, then you consider A/B testing those. But we want to save our A/B tests only for those things that we have a lot of evidence
Right.
is going to work. But what are you curious about? I mean, marketers are curious people, and I think we get too safe. We're too conservative. So we need to use these tools to exercise some of our creativity, to solve these problems without just taking a guess and
Right.
without having to commission a whole A/B testing. When you get good at answering these questions and you're ready to go to the A/B test, call us. We'll show you how to set that up and make sure you don't make mistakes in the A/B testing
Nice.
process.
So be curious, and if you're not, you shouldn't be in marketing, more or less, right? And
Well, actually, you can get away with it for a long time, but you're not going to be satisfied. We don't get into marketing just because we want to have a job and because we like the look of cubicles. We do it because we want to change hearts and minds, and
Right.
that's what satisfying our curiosity does, and that's what testing does,
Right.
and it's very exciting.
Right. I think one of the things I find, and you know this better, is creating a culture of testing and optimization. Because you talk to leaders and they will say, yeah, we need to do this acquisition strategy.
Yeah.
We need to do this. We need to run demand gen.
Yeah.
We need to run ads. But nobody says, oh, we should be testing. And even if they say it, it's a throwaway statement.
Yeah.
So how do you start with that culture, and how do you build a case over time?
So the reason that these executives come in and do this, and we call them helicopter executives, and they'll do it to their team, they'll do it to agencies, it's because they don't feel like the decisions are being made with the right kind of data. In other words, we haven't showed them why you're doing it this way, and so they feel like they need to insert their opinion.
Yeah.
Well, if you start collecting data, if you've got some heat maps that show that the design you've just done is working and that we need to drive more traffic to it, or if you've got an eye tracking test, or if you've done one of these usability
Right.
hub studies that says that this is probably going to win, the executives can back off because they've seen the data that says they don't really need to add
Right.
their one more person to your sample size
Right.
because you've already taken it and shown it to 25 other people or 50 other people, or you've put it in front of people on your website, so there's
Right.
1,000 people who've seen it, and you know how it's working, right?
Right, right. So, budgeting. How much budget allocation have you seen companies are doing, right? Like marketing, we know 10%, 15% of the overall budget. Then you slice it down to your lead acquisition, your demand gen, your conversion. How much people are actually allocating to conversion optimization and things like that?
So here's what we do. We actually calculate
Yeah.
small increases in conversion rates. So let's say we work with you for 6 months. For every 10% increase in conversion rate we find, how much additional dollars does that generate
Right.
annualized? And then we'll back out the profit on that. So if we can't cover our fees and put a lot more money in your pocket, then we don't have a very good business case.
Right, right.
So, and I think you can do this with a lot of your agencies. It's the ROI calculation.
Right.
Assume small increments of success, and if you make $500,000 every time we find another 5% on your conversion rate, it's pretty easy to justify my team coming in here and doing that work. There is no hard and fast percentage. If you're in a high profit or a high, in other words, if every sale generates a lot of revenue, your payback's much faster. If you have a lot of traffic, we can test much faster. So those are really the two variable knobs that help us determine how fast you're going to get your money back.
Now, one of the things, is there any tools you recommend for people out there? I know you mentioned unbounce and usability. Are there any tools you recommend people who are starting off and doing some?
There's a whole bunch of tools I recommend, and for different parts of the design process. So what I want us to do is go from doing a lot of research and then having our team make a bunch of assumptions and then launching campaigns to every assumption can be tested. And so in my presentations, I really talk about that, and I show some of those tools. So it starts down here with reading chat transcripts and ratings and reviews, all the way through to these usability hub studies I've talked about, eye tracking studies, taking prototypes out to usertesting.com. And then after launch, we have all these amazing tools: heat map, session recordings, scroll maps, analytics. Then the A/B testing tools become valuable. So this is kind of the progression. And I guess it really depends, number one, on what you're comfortable with, what you're trying to figure out, and number two, where you are in your design process.
Nice. Any favorite A/B testing tools you recommend?
We work with all of them. So VWO, Optimizely. Google has recently released, in the last year, a nice free version of a Google Optimize.
Nice.
So we've been looking at that. And so with
a lot of them. Great. So Brian, can you tell us now, I should have asked you this early on, but how do you work with people at Conversion Scientists? I know you call yourself Conversion Scientists, but if you can tell our audience your core and how do you help people on conversion, that would be great.
Yeah, so our process is first and foremost to find more leads, more sales, more revenue. But in that process, we have to do a lot of education. We start off by setting up a digital lab, so we install these tools and make sure that they're working. But it takes about 6 months for us to get all of that going, to get everybody up to speed on the reporting and settle things down. We can do, during that period, 6 rounds of testing with several hypotheses. And at the end of that 6 months, we expect to have found enough revenue that it's a no-brainer for it to keep working with us. We have a great renewal rate, as you might guess. But in that time also, data has started to take hold in an organization. And so people renew with us for a lot of other reasons than just the revenue.
Great. So Brian, how do our audience reach out to you? What is it, Brian?
Conversionsciences.com.
There you go.
Come visit us there. You'll learn about our process, and we have a great blog. We teach, we present, and we write about everything we're learning. So you should check it out.
This is great. Thank you, Brian, for your time. This is great chatting. Sorry for the walk, but I thought, we'll get some exercise as well. But thank you for doing this. Thank you, folks, for joining. Brian here, Conversion Scientist, Conversion Sciences. Glad you can join us. Thank you.